the digital era and the digital technology in today's world and society, I think that people is a bit less convinced about the importance of the creative economy. And probably we are not really sure about what is exactly also the creative economy. And well, we at IDB, we call it the orange economy. That is basically a very trendy way to call it with another name that is very nice, you know, with this kind of logos. But basically, we think about that. Okay. Okay. We think. Okay. Yes. As all the activities through which the ideas are basically transformed into cultural or creative goods and services that can be protected by intellectual property rights. This is a very broad definition in some way, but I just want to give you some example, because it's not just what we usually think about, that is cinema, photographics, design, music, obviously. That is the part that is here at the top of the slide, that is basically what is the cultural creative industry, where the final output of the industries is a creative itself. Let's say music, where the outcome is a song that can be bought with a CD some years ago and now downloaded or listened in the radio. But it is also this part down in the slide that we call the activities of creative support. That is basically how creative activities are more and more integrated in the value chain and in the same production function of traditional enterprises and traditional sectors. I always make an example that is about the iPhone that I have here, that is about probably sold at $600, where it is used, so maybe it is 400, but still has a lot of investment in terms of technology, and we have seen the importance of technology in the presentation of Claudia and all the discussion of yesterday about technology extensionism, but it has a lot of investment in design. And the difference in some way between the iPhone and other smartphones is about the design, the fact that it is beautiful. So this can be part of the value chain or the production function of all the industry. And I will try to convince you in this presentation how important it is and what is the relationship between creativity and innovation. Why are we really talking of two different things, or are we talking about the same thing? And finally, I will try to convince you, and you will tell if I will be successful or not in this, that the public intervention is necessary as much as it is necessary in innovation, and that we have instruments in order to correct this situation and to promote this creative economy. And well, just to give you a picture and to tell you that it is already very important, in the world it is more than $2,000 billion that are already generated by the creative economy, and it is more than my country's GDP, so it's pretty much. In Latin America, it's also important, it's almost 2 million jobs, and in the Caribbean, it is about 5% of GDP, as measured by the World Intellectual Property Organization in Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. And obviously the music industry in Jamaica or the carnival industry in Trinidad and Tobago are big example of what is the top of our slide, the creative industries to work. So, what is the relationship between creativity and innovation? Yesterday, José Miguel was talking about the difference between invention and innovation. And for those who weren't here, innovation basically has two main elements. The first one is about what is something new. Okay, that's obvious. Innovation is something new. That's okay. But the second point is much more tricky in some way. That is generating value to somebody else that is not just the innovator or the inventor. Just to give you an example, in the US, there is more or less 95% of the patents that are deposited in the US Patent Office that are completely useless. Nobody uses them. Not for economic purposes, not for social purposes. It is just the personal satisfaction of the inventor that really wants to have something patented. Is this an innovation? No. This is not generating value. It can become an innovation if someone can find a way to use the invention in order to generate value. So we have two main elements that are characteristics are the basics of innovation: the novelty and the value. So let's apply this to the creative, to creativity and the creative activities. So this is a chair. I will try to do this game with very basic stuff, the basic good, nothing fancy. This is something that you can find probably in your grandmother's kitchen. It is wood. It is not very fancy. In Amazon, well, we talk quite a lot about Amazon. This is talking by Amazon. It is about $30. And you can think about ways to have innovation on a chair. And you can think that in many different ways. For example, you can have a chair that is more comfortable because the material is softer, or there is this Swedish chair that are like ergonomics, no? That is not about not making you having backache after a day at the office. And obviously this is an innovation. This is a technical innovation. Nobody can deny that this is an innovation. It can be also an innovation in terms of process. So it can be the same chair, but done in a better way that can be cheaper, can be quicker. The same chair can be lighter because the material can be different, or can last more. Well, you can say many different options. But the concept of the traditional innovation is that the function, in some way, of the chair is improved. There is this concept of constant improving, no? Something that is better than one before. But if we change our chip and start thinking about what is the creative economy, we can think about this kind of chair. So this chair is obviously Italian design. All my examples will be about Italian. And I can assure you, this is not more comfortable than the one on the left. It doesn't last more. I mean, probably it is much more fragile than the one on the left. It's not lighter? No. Well, it cost $450 in Amazon, and the other one is 30. So, is it generating value? Yes. Value for consumers. Why? Because it's nice. I mean, even if the originator was German, the designer was German, but the firm is Italian. And it has been, you know, like pathbreaking. This was back in the 80s, the first chair that was transparent in some way. So we have the two elements. Do you remember the two elements of before? Is something new? Yes, it is. I mean, there was nothing before that. Is generating value? Yes, it is. So, I mean, now I hope to have you convinced that we talk about creativity and when we talk about innovation, we are not talking about two very different things. Actually, there are some scholars in the UK that call that soft innovation compared to the hard innovation that is much more technological. But there are other features that are very similar to the fact of innovation. And we are back to the subject of this session, that is digital technology. So, well, you know, in the music industry, or for example, in the movie industry, it is really there is really a big demand of cutting-edge technology. You can recognize this, I think. This is an org. And I hope that most of you have seen some of the movies back about 10 years ago about the Lord of the Ring. Yes. Okay? Well, good, because if nobody has seen that, it would be difficult for my example to be effective. So, and well, you know, there are these orgs, but really, the feature that was really new in terms of technology in that movie was not this, but it was this, that is not very clear, but were these armies of orcs, dwarves, and men, elves, and whatever, that were having battles, and terrible battles. But the interesting thing was that the director just realized that before this movie, there weren't software that could simulate in a very well way that any person, or any organ in this case, act in a different way in the same situation. And so all the battle scenes before this movie were very unnatural, because you could have like a number of patterns, but still, at the end of the day, it was a finite number, a fixed number, and so it wasn't very natural, it wasn't very realistic. So there was a software company that started to think about this problem and came out with this new software that basically has a random different reaction of any person of order in front of the same situation. And this is part of the success of the movie, apart from all the other things, but still it was a technologically breakthrough in some way. It was digital. But this is not the most important part of the story, because innovation as knowledge can be fused without a lot of borders. I mean, an important part of that is what the economists call externalities. I mean, something that is not supposed to happen, but it happens. So it happens also in this way, but not just in the way what you usually can think, that is that other movies are starting to use this software in order to be more realistic, but also in some unexpected ways. This firm, that is called Massive, started to think about applying the same software in other areas. And they had a nice idea. Look, why don't we use this to simulate the reaction of people in front of emergency situation? So they started to sell simulation based on this software to builders in California to simulate reaction of people in front of earthquakes, so they can have the right ways, the right structure and form of the buildings. And after that, they expanded their business and went to London, and all the underground stations are designed using this software in order to be more effective and to simulate the flows of people. And Trafalgar Square has been designed in terms of the traffic using this software. So, you see, there are sometimes technologies that are born for the creative industries or the creative economy that after can find application in other places. So I hope that now you are really convinced about creativity and innovation being the two faces of the same coin. So I will try to pass to the second question and the second point where I want to convince you. That is why it is necessary public support in order to support these activities. There are a bunch of market failures have been mentioned yesterday by José Miguel and before by Claudia, and we try always to find a way at the bank to have a justification about when we have a public intervention, based on what we call market failure. So here there is a bunch of market failure, quite a lot of them, so it wasn't very difficult. The first one is that sometimes there are some public good features. That means that things that are not excludable and you don't have a rivalry in consumption. For example, I try to find a picture of something interesting in Kingston. So these are fireworks in Kingston. And obviously when you do fireworks, that is a creative activity. You cannot really exclude people to see them in the sky, no? And also, there is no rivalry. If I see the fireworks, I enjoy them, and also my friend that is just next to me can enjoy, and everybody can enjoy them without a rivalry in the consumption. So this is a classic reason, a classic market failure can justify this kind of public intervention. But there is more, and it is even more interesting. Do you remember the chair? Yes, sure, you remember. Well, for $150 in Amazon, well, but you can also find at $20 the perfect copy that is, it's pretty similar, no? So, for sure it won't be the same. I mean, I'm not saying that, and the other one, when you see that for real, is much more nice, but it is to make the point that basically the lack of appropriability, the fact that everybody can copy a shape, can copy a song, can copy a movie, obviously it is something that calls for public intervention. It is called technically weak appropriability or lack of appropriability. So this is another of the classical reasons that can justify the public intervention. But more, the structure of cost is something that is very complicated to sustain, because you have a very high, usually fixed and sunk cost at the beginning, but after you have basically no cost of recuperability. So you need an investment at the beginning that usually very high. So small firms or individuals can have a lot of difficulties to find this kind of financing. And financing is even more complicated because of what is called asymmetric information. That is that the creator, or who is producing some kind of creative goods or services, has some idea about what is the value of them and what are the probability of success. But the financier, and usually the banks, have definitely no idea about that, so they're not giving money, especially because, you remember, the cost structure is very high at the beginning. I will tell you a very short story because I have 2 minutes now. I thought that I was the shorter of the two. And we were at a conference in Argentina, and one of the speakers was a guy called Daniel Burman. He's a very, very successful director, and also he has a production company that is extremely successful. They have started to produce for Netflix. They are making $1 million. And he was saying, look, if I go to a bank in Argentina with a story of success of $1 million, with just my USB, where I have project for the next 5 years, where the value of this is probably about $5 or $10 million, at least. Well, nobody is giving me just $1, because they do not know, really. They know about traditional businesses. And after he said, look, I'm also the son of a lawyer. And you know what it happens to lawyers in our region? They sometimes get paid with very strange things, you know. And so to his father, they just gave him a piece of land that is remote, nobody can go there, is completely, you cannot produce anything. Well, he was saying, okay, you know what? I went to the bank and I put this as a collateral, and they gave me money because of the piece of land, because they can't touch, you know, the thing. And they cannot give me money from my $10 million of project that I have on my USB. So basically, there is a bit of a problem of financing. And obviously there is a problem of intellectual property that I won't deepen on this because naturally we talk quite a lot about this and the relation with digital things. And also there are a lot of coordination failures. And especially there are coordination failures between traditional industries and creative industries. Because the traditional industry usually do not see really the value of creative inputs in their products. Another short story, I promise, 2 minutes. And, but it's very nice, really. It happened in Uruguay in this time. And we were there for a project that is very interesting about innovation voucher with the Innovation Agency of Uruguay. Well, we were just just talking with entrepreneurs in order to calibrate the instrument. And actually, we went exactly to the same place where that Claudia showed before. It's called the CINET. It is an incubator and a worker space. And over there, they presented us to an amazing entrepreneur. That was a French guy, but was living in Uruguay since a long time, that is producing robots for education. And they are the most sophisticated robots for education that are present in the market right now. Much more sophisticated than Chinese, Japanese, European, US. They are cutting-edge technology for education. Because it seems that some children are much more comfortable with the robot, and so it can be very useful in some education too. But it had a problem that it's not selling. So it is a bigger problem for a company because it hasn't demand. And he was asking, I am really not sure about what is the problem because this is top-notch goods and they are not very expensive. So what is the problem? And we started to say, okay, but so you need more money? Yeah. He said, yes, I need more money because I can add a new functionality and this probably can be my new key in order to sell. But when it just showed us the robot, the problem was that it was ugly. I mean, no children can play with a robot that scares them. And why? Because this guy that was an incredible engineer wasn't thinking about investing even a small amount of money in creative industries, in design, in order to make it beautiful. So there is a lack of coordination, and I would have a lot of examples, but I'm running really out of time. But there is also on the other side, because creative people, especially art people, are very scared about thinking this as a business. I mean, if you talk about a musician, I mean, they are doing that because they like doing that, because it's art, it's culture, it's not business. So they do not treat this often as a business. So there is a lot of coordination failures. And so it is important to have a public intervention. And just quickly, I wanted to tell you that there are some rules, let's say, that we try to specify at LED and try to thinking about what are the main characteristics of this intervention. What should we do? Because there are quite a lot of possible options. The first thing is that this is about an ecosystem. And we call that a creative ecosystem, but in an ecosystem that is pretty complex, where not just the creators that are at the center, but also the government, universities, the traditional sectors, as I told you, and also the users are important. Here there is a very key point that I cannot not make here. That is, compared with traditional innovation, this is even more complicated, because sometimes the value is given just by the consumer. A movie can be very, very, very successful and sell a lot of tickets, and another movie can sell nothing just because of the reaction of the consumer. Much more than other goods, where the value is given also from the physical inputs or the technology that is embedded. So it is very complicated in this case. So what are the instruments of public policy? I will skip this. but there are quite a lot. I'm sorry. This is because this is not done by a professional designer. Actually, this was the only slide that was not done by the professional designer, and you can see directly how you need creative inputs in any activity. Because but I swear it worked with me. Okay. So you can have policies in order to promote the supply side, so the production of creative goods and services, like vouchers or subsidies, tax incentives, and go on. You can have policy that promote the demand in terms of, for example, traditional industries. We have a very successful story about this kind of creative vouchers, vouchers that are given to SMEs in order to co-finance creative inputs that are more or less like innovation voucher, but adapted to creativity. There are very successful stories from Europe, for example in Manchester, where they have been born. But also, obviously, human capital formation. And it is clear that this kind of skills that are necessary are more and more connected with the digital capacities. In the music, we will see, in the movie, wherever, right now we are talking about digital skills, as well as, obviously, the creative part. So we are talking about what is now STEAM, not just Scientology, science, technology, engineering, and math, but with an A that is art. So this is extremely important. And also, it is important to have this kind of policies that are systemic, like touching all the elements of the ecosystem, not just one. And to do that, you need to have institutions. And the current institutions are very difficult to find. Why? Because you need the systemic policies, you need also coordination between different agencies in the government. So Ministry of Education, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Science and Technology, obviously Ministry of Culture, and this is not very easy to do. And also, these are long-term policies. They do not give results in short term. So there is what Jose Miguel has called yesterday dynamic inconsistency problem, apart from other institutional failure like capture or principal agent problem that are classical in the institutional economics region. So, just to finish, what can we say about what should be do a public policy for a creative region, in this case the Caribbean? The first thing is about not having a single instrument. A single instrument is good, but you need to have multiple instruments touching different actors and different sides of the problem. So you need a policy mix that obviously will be different depending on how mature is an ecosystem or how not mature it is. The second thing is about data and evidence. The data that I showed you are the only ones that we have, basically. We don't have enough data, and we need data in order to design effective public policy. And even more, we need data to do impact evaluation, to design effective public policy. So this is extremely important. And finally, we need institutions that are able to design and implement this kind of policy. So it is a key element in our process. So thank you very much. I'm sorry if I took too long.